Hello, and welcome to the Heartfelt Clubhouse. We're so happy to have y'all join us. I am beyond happy to have y'all in this safe space where we can talk about anything under the sun. I am your host, Baby BC, of course, and I am actually joined here with two of my friends from college. If y'all want to introduce yourselves a little bit, go for it.
I am Damani Carter.
And I'm Byron Keaton. And yeah, we met BC, I guess about 5 years ago now.
Six.
Wow. Time is flying.
Wow. Yeah, we're old.
We're old people,
Yeah.
man. It's weird.
Yeah, so we actually connected through college when I was still at University of Arkansas, and that was a really good time, but we definitely reconnected most recently on air of y'all's podcast. So if you want to tell us a little bit about Trying to Be Grown and, you know, the audience you guys cater to, let us know.
Well, we've been kind of animated in some conversations for the last 6 years, and there's a bunch of people that have told us y'all should, you know, start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, and eventually, you know, we just actually decided to put that idea in a like functioning movement. And, you know, we cater to an audience that's kind of like us. And, you know, the title Trying to Be Grown signifies this kind of transitional period in life that people our age are kind of in, just because we got friends that, you know, are really like super adulting right now, and people like me that are just kind of still transitioning out of, you know, that student college life and all that other stuff. And you have a whole bunch of people that are somewhere in the middle, and people that are just out doing their own thing. So we cater to that audience, but it's got a little something for everybody, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like a podcast for, I would say, like 20-somethings, what they call them. Just like a lot of in-betweeners in which we're still trying to figure out what to do in our lives. As you know, in your 20s, you're kind of just going to the flow. You're trying to get your foot wet, but you're just trying to learn what to do. And that's mainly what our podcast is about, and just about our personal lives and how we're making it through this, I guess, rough process.
And sports.
And sports.
We also talk about sports more than we probably
And sports, of course. Yes, your podcast is awesome. Everyone needs to go check y'all out for sure. It was an honor to be a guest on your podcast. It was so fun. And I think actually on y'all's podcast and on the Heartfelt Club's podcast, our first episode, we both kind of touched on the topic of toxic traits. So that was our call to action on the first episode of the Heartfelt Clubhouse. We asked the audience to kind of identify what their toxic traits are, whether that's relationships or, you know, friends, or even like with how they think about mental health. So I'm going to put y'all on the spot, and I'm going to ask, what are your toxic traits? What is one toxic trait y'all can identify?
Byron?
You got it first.
Nah, I said your name first, bro.
No, because on the podcast, y'all, I felt attacked. So you go ahead and start it this time, man.
All right. So I have to. It's still my toxic trait, and I feel like this is the one that's most relevant. So I'll repeat kind of what I said. It's just that I really, and this is like in every context, I hold on to stuff for longer than I should. And not only does that like have a bad, it potentially has ill effects for other people, of course, but like I feel like it also hurts my mindset, my psyche going into like subsequent situations, because I'm still holding on to things from, you know, whatever a past situation may be. And it's not necessarily that I don't want to work through them. It's just that like I have just like gnawing thoughts that just continue to like keep stuff with me longer than I should. So in a nutshell, that's my toxic trait.
Oh yeah. So you're you're kind of aware that there's certain triggers you have.
Oh, definitely. Like, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. Like, it's not even necessarily there's certain triggers. It's just like if something happens and I know that, well, I'll use a real easy one so we don't have to pull out any ugly stuff. Like when I'm on a team that like loses, and this goes all the way from like football to Jenga. Like if I am on a team that takes an L that I'm going to think about, like I know immediately that I'm going to think about that L for a while. Like in fantasy football last year, I didn't start somebody that I should have started, and I lost the championship, and it gnawed at me for like 2 weeks. And that's real. Like that's 100% real.
Damani, no.
I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like this, but it's just like that's real.
No, I feel that though. Like it lingers. It lingers. I'm with you on that.
Also, he holds grudges for people like not locking the door.
Stop. See, bro, no, it's not even holding grudges. That was just principality with you, because you literally like you came
My
home.
name in his phone is whatever it is, locked door, and that happened maybe 4 years ago.
That's because it's funny though. I just didn't take it out because it's funny. And what's your name in my phone?
I don't know.
You know what your name in my phone is. Tell everybody. Yeah, you do. Nah, you wanted to tell everybody about the other part. What's your name in my phone?
Byron, you always end up in the hot seat.
I know every time. That's why I just try to go with the flow.
For all the listeners
I
out there,
freaking
his
love
name
it.
in my phone is Tommy K, because he released a mixtape as an 8th grader under the rap name Tommy K. So that's also his name in my phone.
Oh,
You didn't want to tell him that part, huh?
I needed this. Tommy Cat. All right, Tommy Cat, what is your toxic trait?
First, before I get into it, I don't believe I'm toxic, for one.
That's all right.
2, if I had to say something, I would say that I'm dismissive to an extent. In which, wait. By dismissive, I mean after about 2 to 3 hours, or if I go to sleep, I'm over whatever happened yesterday. So I don't carry stuff over to the next day. And some people get offended by that. Because, like, I'm not just holding on to an argument that we may have had before we went to sleep, or something that happened the day before. Once I go to sleep, it's a new day. Nothing about to weigh me down or my emotions down.
Okay, so like you're saying that you and Damani could not date. You could not date because y'all have the opposite toxic traits.
Sure, yeah, actually, yeah.
He would be like,
like
can we
there's
please
other
finish this conversation? I'm not over it. And you'd be like, I just woke up. We're done.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not about to carry some. If I go to sleep, it's a new day. I'm about to be happy. I'm not about to have something just, as Damani would say, gnawing at me.
Yeah.
I'm done.
See, I'm definitely more like with Damani. Like, stuff totally gnaws at me, and I have to talk about it to no end. Like, until we fully resolve this discussion, it's like I'm gonna badger you for sure.
Also, in those type of situations, like arguments, discussions, once I get my point across and I say what I need to say, I don't like repeating myself. So if we just going back and forth and we just saying the same things over and over, I don't feel we're getting anywhere. And then that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But do you feel like you listen to the other person's point?
I listen.
I don't know.
I listen.
I don't know. I don't know if you do that. But that's
Yeah,
always
that
have
is
to
a
agree
great
with somebody.
point.
You don't always have to agree.
But I mean, you're like uncompromising in the way that you say, all right, it's my way or your way. There is no gray area in the middle. Like you don't really compromise. And I think that's an important part of that dismissiveness that contributes to toxicity.
Snaps for Damani. Snaps.
But,
He's dropping
but in
dimes.
life, there's not always a lot of compromise, man.
Oh my god.
I think
Like,
I think a point to make here is like when you're having these situations, are you listening to respond so you can get your point across, or are you listening to hear them? You know what I'm saying?
I listen to hear.
No, you do.
How you gonna tell me?
Maybe not to Damani.
In most conversations I've seen him have, no, he does not listen to hear. He listens to
All right. I'll take you out of the hot seat for now.
So what is
I
yours?
thought about it. Yes, okay. So I struggle with it because honestly, I feel like I have a few where I don't think they're toxic, but I now see how they could be. So like for instance, the one I want to talk about today is I really like honesty. Like I'm super big into honesty, and I'll do things when I first start talking to a guy or first start dating him that I think are just like me showing how honest I can be.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it comes off in a different light. So, like, for instance, if my exes text me, I will let whoever I know, like whoever I'm talking to, I'll let them know. Like, I'll be like, whoa, my ex just hit me up. Or like, weird, like my ex is asking to get coffee, or like whatever it may be. And to me, that's like, hey, like, see, if my ex hits me up, I let you know. But to them, I've gotten feedback from the guys I've dated. And apparently it comes off like, look at all these guys that want me, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to make them jealous, which I'm not, I swear.
Huh. I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah. So that's something I'm working on, because like I literally have had multiple guys, because I'm friends with most of my exes, or most of the guys I've like had flings with, and they all kind of say like, yeah, sometimes your honesty is like too much. So I guess that's a toxic trait, is like I feel like I need to share every aspect of everything, and it's really unnecessary.
Wow. Like, I have never, that particular issue, I don't think I've ever heard like somebody divulge that as a toxic trait before. But that is really, like, that's interesting. That's interesting. I've never even thought about it like that.
Yeah, and so then it's like, this is why it's important to talk about toxic traits and everything, is because to me it might not be toxic, and to someone else it fully is. Like same with both of your traits. To like, when I hear them, they don't sound very toxic, but maybe this is coming up because other people have been rubbed the wrong way by, you know, both those traits.
Yeah. And another thing with it, I think, is if you just do some of these things once or maybe twice, these typically wouldn't be big problems. But if it's like within you, of like, it's a trait of who you are and you're doing this constantly, I can see how some of these things could rub someone the wrong way, especially if they don't like it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like 2-3 months into the relationship, they're just like, they're quirks. There's something that, I mean, it's cute that, you know, he kind of holds on to stuff a little bit too long, but after a while, them not.
They start adding up.
Yeah, they just, you just start looking at them differently just because you've been looking at the same face for a long time. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
A little bit different.
So have y'all ever like called out your girls, like their toxic traits? Have you been like, hey, I do not like this?
Let's see. All right.
Damani has. That's
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm passive aggressive, like to an extent. So
yeah,
like I'll throw certain jabs, but I don't think I've like ever directly been like, hey, we need to have a sit down because like this thing is affecting me in a negative way. But I will, you know, I'll throw a jab out there every once in a while, disguise it as a joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
That's a joke. See if she catches on. No, that's so interesting, because like I've always had these conversations after the relationship has like ended. We've had like very honest conversations, but it's rarely happens like during the relationship. Like guys don't really call me out, or like sometimes I call out the guys, especially like my healthier relationships. We had that kind of, you know, dialogue. But I always think that's so interesting, like, because it would be so helpful, you know, to know that, like, okay, Byron, we have to go through this before you go to sleep, because once you go to sleep, it's over.
Oh, it's a wrap.
Like, that's helpful to know.
Yeah. I don't. Typically, I'm just go with the flow, if you can't tell. So, I typically don't have those type of conversations. And if I have those conversations, that means I've just been pushed to the very end. Because typically, I can like deal with a lot. Is what I would say.
Yeah.
So, like, some of those little small things that someone may do that annoys me, those aren't big deals. But if I'm, okay, you have to stop doing this, that means I'm basically fed up.
Yeah, okay. And I'd say that we're alike in that aspect, just because, like, I'm not just going, like, on a regular basis be like, hey, this thing is, like, not hurting my feelings, but, like, just getting to me. Because it should be something that I can just, like, me being the tougher individual, it should be something that I could just like get through and get past. But if it gets to that point, I've probably been dealing with it for too long.
Yes. Y'all are kings, though. You shouldn't have to be getting through it, you know? You should be like,
right.
It should be
Definitely
shining.
right.
It should all be shining. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really important to start these dialogues about our toxic traits and everything. But I actually want to switch gears. I think we touched base a little bit on when I was lucky enough to be a guest on y'all's podcast. But I actually want to talk about toxic masculinity today. Because I think that is such an important topic.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like, what do you guys know about toxic masculinity? Like, when I bring that up, what kind of comes to mind?
So, it's a lot of different facets of it. It's what I've come to realize. It can just be little things of someone trying to assert their dominance in a situation that doesn't require it. It can be things where someone feels that they can't do something because they have to look masculine as a whole to other people. So what I've realized is just a lot of things that it kind of goes back to gender norms and things of our society from hundreds and thousands of years ago for the most part, where men just have to be barbaric and strong and things like that, where you can't show weaknesses. What I've come to, it's like what I encompass in toxic masculinity.
I mean, Byron, you kind of touched on it, but I just think like the easiest way to describe it is like a whole-scale sociological force that just imposes a certain persona, bravado, like way of acting for males that doesn't reflect like a necessary way of doing things. Yeah. So we have like we've constructed kind of a way of just fitting a mold for the male and for the female in that sense. That, like I said, just doesn't reflect the way that like is necessary for us to live. But we do it, and it's just it's a continual thing that has been going on for, like you said, a very, very long time.
Toxic masculinity, some key traits to like be wary of and, you know, try and see throughout your social experiences are, one, it's an extreme self-reliance. So this means that, like, you know, men are not willing to reach out for help. And as you know, like with the Heartfelt Club, one of our big things we emphasize is obviously mental health. And I think 3 out of 4 suicides are male, which goes to show that this extreme self-reliance is so detrimental.
Yeah.
2 is shame and disassociation. So that's like avoiding genuine emotional expression, which I personally, as I told you, I'm way too honest and every thought gets spoken, so I can't relate with. And 3, we have an extreme aspiration for dominance, whether that's physical, emotional, or even, you know, like intellectual. Like it's this idea that you have to be top dog. Yeah. Number 4 is the devaluation of women, either opinions, body, or even the sense of self, like not wanting women to really have this autonomy, which can be really, really scary. All of these, as you can tell, are very, you know, encompassed with a negative annotation, as they should be. Mm-hmm. And number 5, we have condemning feminism. And that's not like, you know, condemning the equality of women. It's more so showing affection and doing things that are deemed a little more feminine. And it's like, for instance, if you were to hug Byron and you're like super, super toxic masculinity, some guy walks up and is like, okay, that means you're in love with Byron, like you are sexually attracted to him. Like that is even a facet of toxic masculinity. So I just wanted to let the viewers know that that's kind of the concept, the all-encompassing definition of toxic masculinity. And it's so, so scary. Like, it's so detrimental to not only men, but obviously women and society as a whole, because it holds y'all back from so much. Mm-hmm. And it puts, you know, women at a really scary spot when it comes to men.
Yeah. You got it?
No, I'm just trying to think, like, out of the 5, which one of those I most identify with. Because I think I'm straight on the last 3. Obviously, no, I don't think I can be 100% just being a male like in this society. So anything that I do that I'd say kind of not accidentally, but without knowing it, I feel like I could fit into the last three. Just
Oh yeah,
but
for sure.
the first two that you mentioned, would you mind rattling those off again?
Yes, so extreme self-reliance and then shame
Okay.
and disassociation.
Mine is the shame, the self-reliance thing. I depend on myself way too much a lot of the times, and that's one thing I've realized about myself. But that's one thing, whether it's in just asking someone for help right here because I think they're going to think less of me, or it's something I've been working on and like building up on. But it's just that's one of my things I still have to work on at this point.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Because even acknowledging like where it comes from and understanding that this very much could be like partially the result of toxic masculine energy that I still like hold. Because obviously I don't think like generally independence is not a bad thing, but that extreme self-reliance that you're talking about that comes from a bunch of places, but toxic masculinity could be a source for me, and then for that reason, I have tried somewhat unsuccessfully to try to just like be able to reach out and talk to more people like when I need anything, but sometimes to my detriment, I will still be like, nah, I can do this on my own.
Yeah, for sure. And I think toxic masculinity, like a lot of people think only men can perpetuate it, but obviously like women can as well. Like there's certain times when I can be really bad at like reaching out for help as well, because I also don't want to be seen as weak. And I think part of some things I'm working through when it comes to toxic masculinity is like assuming that femininity is also weakness, because it's not, right? Like feminine and masculine and emotions can't have a label like that because they're not gender specific. They're not feminine nor are they masculine. They're literally just a natural emotion. So I think that's something that is probably one of the most common forms of toxic masculinity across the board with everyone. With that being said, like, I mean, obviously, I told y'all are way emotionally intelligent, but have you seen this in your friend groups of, maybe this a little bit more towards the danger zones of toxic masculinity, where people kind of, oh my gosh, an alarm is going off. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Where people kind of, I guess when they get rejected, have certain opinions about the woman that rejected them.
I would say in our friend group, it's pretty good in which we don't have that problem, I would say, for the most part. But I have seen that just like when I'm out or something like that, where they like a guy, he'll shoot his shot with a girl, she doesn't like him or she turns him down. They're like, oh, and then just start like bad mouthing her, like because she didn't want him in that situation. You see that almost just about every time you go out for the most part.
I mean, we've seen it since we were like 8th graders, because that's how. Not a lot, but I mean, we've seen it happen at certain times that like a guy will be interested in a girl and have like this opinion of her in the pursuit of her. Mm-hmm. But when that pursuit is cut off, like on her volition, then he immediately starts, he puts out a different image.
Yeah.
Because, he's calling her just easy and talking about how she wants all these other people, but that's coming from a place of hurt more than it is of truth. So I mean, I've seen that happen for a while, and I guess it depends like how loosely we say friend, because I definitely know people that I've seen do it. But yeah, generally I'd say our friend group is pretty solid.
Our close knit, like people that I'm most close with, I wouldn't say any of them do that.
Yeah, we're pretty solid on that.
Oh well, that's awesome. Like that's super good to know, because I think one real way to fight toxic masculinity, it has to come from men calling out their men. Because I can scream at the top of my lungs all damn day about how bad toxic masculinity is, but until your friend is like, bro, you shouldn't say that, or like, you shouldn't be this mad because someone rejected you, you know, like, that's when things really can start to change. So that's awesome that y'all are already kind of see that in your friend group.
Yeah, in our friend group, we normally, we'll call each other out just about anything. So that's for sure something we'll. So, like, if someone just does a little thing wrong, that'll be, like, the topic in our group chat for 2 or 3 days. Like, I can't believe you did that. And so, no. I think we're pretty good at that aspect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing I think is important to, like, note here is that, you know, that place of rejection where that kind of anger or those statements comes from, it's also, like, that honor belief where certain men, and this, as you guys touched on, like, this comes from society just kind of ingraining this in all of us. It's when men really do feel that entitlement, or they feel that their worth is kind of coming from how sexually successful they are. And so when they face these times of, like, getting rejected, it literally hits them to their core. You know, like, when you're really full of toxic masculinity, it's like that can really shake you.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy. And I don't necessarily think we as women experience that as much by any means. But it's definitely something to, like, take note of. And I think it's important for women to realize and men to realize as well. Like, we as women, it can be really scary to reject someone, even a stranger, even your best guy friend. Like, actually, 4 out of 5 stalking victims are women. And 93% of females who are stalked, they are actually murdered by the men that they know. Like, they know their stalker. And it gets terrifying. To that place of violence. Yeah. Which is really, really crazy. Yeah. And men obviously can be stalked as well, but this toxic masculinity kind of makes the narrative far more around women being stalked, because men do feel, maybe, not speaking on all men, but toxic masculinity can evoke people to feel like they're owed something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, just the statistical likelihood of stuff like that happening for women is, one, like, it's crazy to hear about, but to the people that, you know, kind of deny the presence of toxic masculinity in their own lives and use really, like, any strategy they can to kind of subvert the problem, it just, like, it's there. And that's the statistics make it an undeniable, like, well, I mean, for lack of a better word, like, it's a fact that is an issue, and that it very much needs to be addressed. So yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, once we know better, we're definitely obligated to do better, to really alter this whole narrative and help break men free from the toxic masculinity, and, you know, provide this safer space for women and for, you know, the object of that kind of retaliation that happens during rejection.
And my question, BC, is, I know everything takes time. How long do you think it will take for us to actually, like, get rid of toxic masculinity, get rid of all this entitlement that men feel that they have when it comes to women? How long do you think that will actually take?
Honestly, I mean, oh God, it'll take multiple generations, but I alone have seen such, in a weird way, like, being in quarantine, I've seen my friends grow leaps and bounds. Some of my friends who I definitely, like, saw that toxic masculinity, I actually saw them grow a lot within this past year. Yeah. Just because a lot of people were forced to sit with their thoughts. You know, they were literally locked in their house and kind of forced to realize, like, hey, certain things I'm doing aren't actually safe for me, nor are they safe for someone else. And I think a lot of men currently are, like, stepping into their power when it comes to mental health and when it comes to self-advocating for their mental health. And I think that's the big turning point, because once we open these dialogues and once people start to feel safe, you know, expressing it, y'all can start advocating to your, your friend group. Y'all can start having these discussions outside of relationships with your significant other and more into the open social area.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I honestly foresee this taking a long, long time, but I kind of am starting to see less friction as I'm bringing this into the, different spheres of my friendships.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for a roundabout answer, a long time, but a short time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we are at a good point to kind of wrap things up. I think y'all are way too emotionally intelligent already. Like, I don't even know. No, but I'm really happy to have had y'all. Obviously, I always do a call to action. So if you guys want to take a moment to think about yours, I will kick it off. And I will say, please head over to the Heartfelt Club website, www.heartfeltclub.com, and check out the clarity section. Within that, we have an article labeled Bad for All, where you can actually go through and read a few different articles to better understand rejection, retaliation, toxic masculinity, and how it's detrimental for everyone involved. And please, let us know when you read that, report back for sure. And yeah, what's your call to action?
So I know a lot of people are out here having their hot boy and hot girl summers. I can't get my. If y'all see someone out and you see someone get rejected and they're trying to assert themselves over someone that they were pursuing, please do something to stop it. Whether it's you just pull them to the side and say, hey, that's not cool, or whether you have to do something else to get in between that. Just make sure you're protecting everyone out here and do what's right.
You talking about checking somebody in that type of situation. I just say, in general, check your homeboys, your homegirls when they show that evidence of toxic masculinity. Because a lot of the time, in conversations with people that I know, that I care about, that I love, it's kind of hard to say, hey, bro, you shouldn't say that. Why do you think this? And I mean, it doesn't have to be a whole scale like this person has to go. But at the same time, you want to see if you can bring people along with you. So as you come into your wokeness in terms of toxic masculinity, see if you can bring somebody along with you.
Yes, that is a great point. Lift as you climb, as everyone progresses, as people get more emotionally intelligent, let's start helping other people reach those levels, and we can reach higher levels. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us today in the Heartfelt Clubhouse, where you are always safe to express yourself. Y'all are always seen. Y'all are always respected. Now go out and be more heartfelt. Make a change today.
Thank you for having us.
Out.